Okay, let's get right into it. We're breaking down some fascinating source material today that claims a secret meeting just went down, a meeting that could completely change the game for global energy and, maybe more importantly, what you end up paying at the pump.
So let's just start with the big, bold claim from our source. Their argument is simple. The price of gas as you know it, it's about to undergo a permanent, structural change. They believe something fundamental just shifted in the world of oil.
So what exactly was this big event? Well, their entire analysis hinges on a secret meeting that they allege happened just a couple of days ago, a meeting with huge consequences for pretty much every consumer in America. So let's dig into what they say actually happened.
Right, so our journey starts in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. This is where this secret energy deal was supposedly put together.
Now, the source gets really specific. They claim it all happened late Tuesday night at the Royal Palace. And look at the guest list. Top officials from Saudi Arabia, Russia, and China. But you know what's really interesting here is who wasn't invited. No U.S. officials, no American media. The source really emphasizes this point to highlight just how secret this whole thing was.
Okay, so they met in secret. But what did they actually agree on? The source material claims it was a three-part agreement, a framework specifically designed to start reshaping the global oil market.
And here it is, the alleged three pillars of the deal. First, Saudi Arabia and Russia agree to coordinate on cutting oil production, to get a tighter grip on supply. Second, and this is a huge one, they agree to set up a new, parallel system to start accepting the Chinese yuan as payment for oil. That's a direct challenge to the US dollar. And third, they make a pact to prioritize sending oil to China if there's ever a major global shortage.
So, that's the high-level geopolitical stuff. But how does a secret handshake in Riyadh actually end up affecting the price you see on that giant sign at your local gas station? Let's trace it out.
It all starts with this number, 3.5 million. That's the number of barrels of oil per day that the source claims Saudi Arabia and Russia are about to pull off the market. To really get why that number is so powerful, we have to look at how fragile the whole system is.
This chart really tells the story. Right now, the world produces just a tiny bit more oil than it uses, about 500,000 barrels a day. It's a tiny surplus, but it's what keeps prices stable. Now look what happens when you yank 3.5 million barrels out of that system. The surplus vanishes, and you're left with a massive 3 million barrel a day deficit. According to this analysis, that's how you turn a stable market into a full-blown crisis.
So the source then applies some pretty standard market economics. They argue that historically, when you cut global oil supply by this much, around 3.4%, it doesn't just raise prices by 3.4%. Oh no, the effect is magnified. It actually leads to a much bigger jump in the price of crude oil, somewhere between 17 and 24%.
And now for the bottom line, right? What does this all mean for us? Well, after crunching all the numbers, from the refinery costs to market speculation, the source is projecting a national average gas price of, get this, $5.15 a gallon by September of this year.
Now you might be thinking, hey, don't we have a giant emergency stash of oil for exactly this kind of thing? And we do, but here's the catch. The analysis points out that our strategic petroleum reserve is at its lowest point since 1983. Right now, it holds only about 19 days of supply, which doesn't leave the U.S. a lot of wiggle room if a supply shock like this really hits.
And this is where the story gets even bigger. The source argues that this deal isn't just about gas prices. No, it's a direct challenge to the US dollar's 50-year-long reign as the king of energy trade. So to understand that, we need a quick refresher on something called the petrodollar system. It all goes back to a deal in 1974. The US gave Saudi Arabia security guarantees, and in return, the Saudis agreed to price all their oil in US dollars. This single move forced every country in the world to buy and hold dollars to get oil, which is what made the dollar the world's primary reserve currency. And this slide really lays it out. The old system on the left, all dollars, all the time. The new mechanism this source claims is being built, it creates a second lane on the highway. It doesn't get rid of the dollar overnight, but by letting countries buy oil with Chinese yuan, it allegedly kicks off a historic de-dollarization of the energy market.
To give this idea some weight, the source brings up a quote they attribute to the Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Daniel Yergin. He reportedly called this a coordinated effort by oil producers to take back some of that economic power, and he warns that, quote, the transition will be painful for American consumers.
So this isn't just some vague, far-off theory. The analysis actually lays out a very specific month-by-month prediction of how they expect all of this to unfold.
Okay, here's their roadmap. They see prices slowly climbing through June and July, thanks to the production cuts and summer driving demand. In August, they say speculators will jump in, pushing the average to 475. But September? September is the month they've circled. They claim that's when the yuan payment system goes live, pushing oil to $115 a barrel and gas to that peak of $515. After that, they expect a small dip, but then we settle into a new normal of permanently higher prices.
The source closes out its argument with this incredibly stark warning. They say, basically, take a good look at the price on the sign at your gas station today. Take a picture. Because if they're right about this deal, you're never going to see that low again.
Which all brings us to the final, really provocative question that this analysis leaves us with. Are we witnessing the beginning of the end of a 50-year system that was built on American financial and energy dominance? According to this one source, the pieces are already moving on the board.